Welcome back to the EAHC podcast. This is episode number 13, and we are doing our 2019 East Anglia Hobbit Community League review / league finale discussion, because we're not reviewing the event per se because it will take too long, but we have got a couple of the players who actually played, and they're going to talk us through their lists and the local meta of the event, because I think some people might be interested in that. And we've actually got a lot of people here today. So Jack's here for once.
Hello.
Give us some shade because he's never here. I'm joking. Dan's back again. Say hello, Dan.
Hello. Nice to see you all.
And CJ's back. So we've all been here before.
Hi.
I think CJ's now got almost as many podcasts, and Dan's almost got as many podcasts as Jack has. So keep throwing him under the bus.
I'm competitive by nature. I'm racing Dan.
But yeah, I am still suffering with a bit of a sore throat and a cough, so I'm going to try and talk as little as possible. We're going to start with the league finale event.
Yeah. Should we just run through an overview of the day, and then we can
about the format, Jack, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So it was 600 points, 4 games, and as we've discussed before, it was split in
650.
It was 650 points, 4 games. But as we've mentioned before, it was split into 2 tiers based on final league positions. So we had the top tier, if you like, which was the East Anglia Hobbit Community Trophy, which James Richardson has produced for us, which there's pictures on the group. Quick shout out to James, friend of the channel. Honestly, it was really good. It's been a couple of years in the making. Sean originally started it off, and it's just all kind of come together now. And it's now kept in the cupboard of dust at Epping.
It is.
We'll have to get some kind of plastic box for it or something, but we'll sort that out. So yeah, that was the East Anglia Hobbit Community Trophy, and we also had the EAHC Shield, which was the second 12 best placing players. And of course, the way things are, some of the players who did finish within those top 24 couldn't make it, and in the end, due to people not being able to make it for various issues and some late dropouts, which does happen, we went down to 12 in the trophy. I was eager to keep that as at 12, and then it was 8 eventually in the Shield.
Was that 12 in the trophy? I could have sworn that went down to 10. I thought it was 10 in the trophy and 6 in the Shield. Have I got that wrong?
No, it's definitely 8 in the Shield.
It was 10 and 8. Okay. It was 10 and 8.
No, it was 10 and 8. Sorry, yes, 10 and 8. It was a case of trying to keep the numbers even, but without having so few players in the Shield that it was almost you would play the same people 3 times. So yeah, that was right. So it went through a 10 and 8 split. And what I did was went along the list. So the people who were the first, second, third, fourth players in the Shield were asked if they were willing to move up, and everyone did. I tried to not move it down. I thought I'd only give people the option to move up, and everyone was happy to accommodate it. So a quick shout out to Sam and Kostas for being willing to move up, and it was quite short notice. I think Kostas was actually on the morning of it as well. So
my fault for not playing.
Yeah, shout out to them for accommodating everyone effectively.
And also to say that because of a dropout on the morning of the event, Jack had to step back from playing, which I know he was quite keen to do. In order to TO.
Yeah, it's always tough to play and TO, but I've managed it so far this year because the events are quite relaxed and everyone's kind of on the same page, just wants to have fun, and just the odd rules query just to get a kind of second opinion is basically the extent of the kind of things you have to sort out in our events. Right. So yeah, unfortunately I had to drop out, which was a shame. But
gave them a spanking and all hero off. It's fine.
Yes, that's true. We had 4 models each, and I got absolutely wrecked. So the format 650, 4 games, and it was a seeded draw for the first game, which was the top half of the draw were drawn against the bottom half of the draw, just to give some kind of benefit for finishing in the top half of the league. Otherwise, there was no difference for someone who finished 12th and first. So, but rather than having someone who was then the bottom in the draw for the trophy to play the top, because then no one would be willing to move up if it was just top versus bottom. It would be a case of at least there was a chance of at the top half playing the bottom half, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So after that, it was the normal rankings, Swiss rankings, going through. And even then, some more people did accommodate us later on because of we actually had 2 dropouts during the day, which reasons for I'll go on to in a sec. Not bad reasons. So it was Kieran, Will, Johnny, Dan, and CJ. Between all of you, you were willing to slightly change one of the draws just to accommodate people not playing the same person over and over again, which was a shame that we had to do that, but I think everyone was happy with it in the end. But yes, that kind of worked out. It was 2-hour games, and the intention of the 2-hour games was to allow everything to go to conclusion. With hindsight, 2-hour games, some games do need it. Other games were finished within about 45 minutes. So there was a lot of waiting around for people. So next year, it will probably be back down to your normal kind of length of games rather than trying to force them to conclusion, because as much as that works for some of the games, most people were done well within the time and there was a bit of waiting around.
Well, it depends, because if you've got an all-hero army, that's not going to last very long. There was Contest of Champions, which infamously can be finished by, turn 2. So it varies a lot. But some games like the first round with heirlooms did need the extra time. Yeah.
But then as I was talking to people at the event, I am going to put up a feedback survey. I've just not had a chance to sit down since the Sunday when I put the results up. I haven't had a chance to sit down again, and I'll get everyone's general feedback and kind of go with the majority, which seems to be kind of working with the feedback so far, and potentially look at making them not short games, but not having so much extra time to allow conclusion.
I think every single one of my games went to conclusion.
Yeah, I think it was the top 2 or 3 tables maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been happy. I would have been happier with them, ending perhaps a little bit sooner because, I mean, what I don't think was necessary for them to go to conclusion, but it was good to have the option. But,
so that's something we can maybe work on for next year. There's plenty of time to look at things and change things about slightly. But it's 2-hour games, 4 games. First one seeded draw, next one Swiss rankings, and split into 2 tiers, which was effectively 2 different competitions, with prizes for the first, second, third, the overall best army, overall most sporting, and the wooden spoon in each competition as well. And I suppose while we're on it, we may as well go through the winners, and then that will lead on to the lists nicely, I believe.
Yeah.
So I've got the Excel sheet up. So we'll do the shield first. So taking home the wooden spoon for the shield was Stephen Booth, and he had a Balrog and a Dragon. That was his army. Saying that some of his games weren't as far away as some of the score lines.
Mate, he was so unlucky in heirlooms.
Yeah. So,
did he lose Contest of Champions with that list?
I think didn't he play Sauron though?
Yeah. And but no, I was speaking to Stephen. He seemed to enjoy all of his games. There was no hard feelings in losing. But he took home a great trophy, and in all honesty, of the individual trophies, that wooden spoon did genuinely look really good.
It did.
And then, so third place in the Shield was Ryan Carrington. So this was his first East Anglia event. So whilst the league was intended to be for players the finale rather, intended to be for players who've attended league events throughout the year, due to people not being able to make it and dropouts and things, it was offered up to the wider community, and it was his first event. And managed to place third, which was really good.
Pretty good going.
And there was a couple of others who come down, and along with Stephen, it was Stephen, John, Alex, and Ryan's not Stephen's, but John, Alex, and Ryan's first event with us, I believe. And they're all eager to come down to more next year, so that was good. And second was Sam Palmer, who attended one of our events during the year, and Clayton, who came away first. He's on a bit of a roll at the moment. I think he was telling me he's won his last 7 East Anglia games in a row, and he carried that through to the finale and won all 4 games and took home the shield.
Great form there.
Doing well.
they all got first, second, third, all got individual trophies, and we've got the shield, which will be engraved yearly, similar to the trophy. And then I think there was talk of potentially whoever wins it the most, maybe keeping them, or maybe just keeping them in the cupboard. We'll see how that pans out as well. So yeah, well done to everyone there. Well done to Clayton for winning, but not just everyone in that competition had a good day, talking to everyone, and all the games were played in good spirits, but with a slightly competitive edge, which was the kind of intention of the finale instead of just another league event. So going on to the trophy. So taking home the wooden spoon for this was Sam Huddy. Him and Tom had a fierce battle for the wooden spoon on the bottom of the table. And again, that was something that was slightly changed throughout the day as well, due to Costas had to leave because he had to go to work, I believe, because it was a slightly later event than we normally do for reasons we've spoke about before. And Jason had to leave as well. He was flying high, second place going into the last game. But unfortunately, he won't mind me saying, by his own admission, he didn't realise it was going to be such a later event, because we are used to having them finish about 6 o'clock. And I think this did run till about after 7. It was by the time the last game was done, potentially. But so yeah, a little mention to Jason there. He was doing well, and I'm sure he'll be back next year to compete again. So Sam Hardy took home the wooden spoon. Third place was Johnny, his Isengard list. Second was Dan, and who took home the trophy. Well, didn't literally take the trophy. Took home his trophy, and will be engraved onto the league trophy, was CJ. Congratulations, CJ.
Well done. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And in credit, the second and third, Dan and Johnny had. Those were the 2 games that basically I almost lost. They gave me incredibly difficult games. So.
Yeah, the top 3 tables, I think, going into the third game, I think any one of those could have won it if a few results went way or a few dice rolls went their way. And but no, it worked out as we intended when we were discussing the format. So the players who won the Shield and the trophy respectively both won all their 4 games and were the only people to do so. So I think we've got 2 fair winners at the top of those. Speaking of Dan and CJ, what we could do, we could drop into your lists and a quick overview of your games. We won't do a blow by blow for every game because we'll be here all week.
But, CJ did ask in the questions what my list and your list would have been. So I've got mine. We could go through that as well.
Should we do ours first? Because it will just be quick because we haven't got games to go through. And then
okay.
CJ
I was going with Pirates because I have had a lot of fun using them this year. So I had Dalamir with 6 Arbalesters, 6 Corsairs with Shield, 6 Corsairs with Spear and Shield. I had a Hasharin with 6 Black Numenorians, 3 Arbalesters and 6 Corsairs with Spear and Shield. I then had a captain with a crossbow, and he had 2 Black Numenorians, a Black Numenorian with a banner, 3 Arbalesters and 5 Corsairs with Shield and Spear. No.
They're horrible pirate crossbows.
Just with Shield, sorry. Just with Shield. So the idea was obviously the Black Numenorians give me defense 6 and they cause terror, and I had 13 crossbows. So
and their crossbows are defense 6, aren't they?
To get shot at, yeah.
Yeah. Good list.
It had 47 models as well. So
God.
That would have probably been the highest model count there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think it would have, actually.
Because I think CJ and Dan, you both, we'll go on to that after, you had a high model count, but I don't think it was anywhere near 47.
Mine was 30.
CJ's list would have been a very hard counter for mine, and so would have Kieran had Kurdan, I believe.
Yeah.
So there was two lists potentially that would have just null and void all my shooting. But the rest of the people's lists in that competition, I might have done all right. So
yeah, okay. So the list I was intending to take was going to be, I've recently started painting up Mordor. 1, because it's great value in the box set and you've pretty much got a whole army ready to go. And 2, I've decided to give the Witch King a bit of a run out because I missed using magic, but still wanted a big hero that could kill stuff. So I thought, what better than the Witch King with the crown on the Fell Beast to kind of do both. So that's where my army started out from, and then I just filled it out with Morannons. I think it worked out as about 28 Morannons, something like that, with front ranks, shield and whatever hand weapon they have, and back rank, shield and spear with a banner, 2 Warg Riders, and Kardush. And then I had a discussion about either taking the Mouth of Sauron, I think I spoke to Josh and Dan about this, or Ringwraith on Fell Beasts, and come to the conclusion that the Mouth of Sauron on horse was probably better. So I decided to take the Ringwraith on horse because I just like the idea of having different spells and being able to do some different bits with it. So yeah, that army kind of sprung out from.
What did the Wraith have? What was his stats?
Oh, just 7 will, 2 might, 2 fate, I think. The 2 fate purely because if it's Fog of War, can't be killed as easy kind of thing. 2 might because might's always great, and 7 will because I didn't want to. He was never going to be doing a lot. He was just kind of to maybe drain some will off a wizard or a hero, and maybe get a kind of catch someone out with a compel, and then allowing 65? The Witch King.
I don't know. How many points is that? 85?
With a horse, yeah, 'cause he's 55 base, so plus 20, 75, and 85, yeah. So it's similar price to the Mouth.
I've gone with the Mouth.
Yeah, that's what the Mouth is.
I would too.
But
yeah,
I never really usually go with what's obvious and do something stupid.
It's not obvious. The Mouth's
and
great.
also
I've loved the Mouth since he was bad, so it's fine.
And also the Wraith, the Fell Beast kit from the starter set has a normal Wraith model with it, and it fits perfectly onto a horse. So I didn't have to buy another model.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that was intention, but it actually wasn't painted anyway. So the army I was going to take, which then become the Ringer army, was just Berserkers, Saruman, Banner, and Grima, which is a bit horrible, but it was all I had painted of Isengard and a few pikes. It was actually quite a decent list, but low model count. So not sure how it would have fared up, but it would have been interesting.
Fair enough.
I played Matt Wielding at Reading, so that was 500 points, and literally all he had was Saruman on horse, Grima, and 17 Berserkers and a banner, and it was horrible.
Oh no!
It just, if you lost a fight, you were dead.
Yeah,
so dead.
That's grim.
If you throw a few pikes in there as well, that becomes effectively 4 attacks. Potentially 5 if you stack the pikes up where you really need them, and it's quite strong. I found that out by accident when I first got back into the hobby. Yeah, they're pretty good. So should we go with? If you both want to run through your lists and then both do your games. So Dan, go for yours first.
Yeah, cool. I ran Angmar, and it was the Witch King on Fell Beast with the Crown of Morgul and the Morgul Blade. So that was 317-3. Might Will and Fate. And then I had the Shade. Yep. And Barrow White, and then 2 Spectres. And then a mix of orcs. So I had about 33 orcs, 1 with a banner, 2 on Warg Riders.
It's not bad.
Yeah, that was my Angmar list. So, it's something I've been looking to play it for a while. Finally, sort of got around to. I think I played it in the. We did was it a 500 point league tournament earlier on?
There was a 500 point. Yeah.
Was it 500? Was it 450? It was.
I think there's been both. There's definitely been both.
So I ran it earlier in the year with Berda. And instead of the Witch King, and it was a lot of fun. But I thought I'd be much better with a Wraith in the list. So I had it sort of penciled in for this around this points amount. So yeah, low on might, but high on tricks and things. So yeah, was a lot of fun to play.
Grim.
One thing I'll say about your list before we hear CJ's was.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stick for the Shade, however, from myself included, which is probably unjust. It was a Green Alliance, and I think it's just there are candidates who shade now.
One list.
Exactly. It was one list, yeah.
One list, exactly. And myself, I think it was all in jest, but I think you got an unfair amount of stick for your shade.
I mean, it's a very influential model now. It does cause a lot of. I get that it causes a lot of, I guess, frustration. But
that's what it's designed to do, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's the sort of it's all from one faction, and it's the only time I would ever play it. I wouldn't ally it in, I don't think.
Yeah.
So,
and there are ways with the Store of Will. There are ways around it. Albeit you were talking about this at the event and after. You do need to spend a lot of resources to nullify it, but you can do it.
Well, you say that as we'll find out in one of my games, it got blown away off the table in one of my games.
I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
We'll get onto that in a bit anyway. So we'll let CJ do the winning list.
Yep.
Normally, I'm sort of a hoardy troop kind of guy, so I tend to do Moria or Lake Town if it's good or evil. But I decided I'm going to try and broaden my skill set this year. So towards the tail end of the year, I started looking at small elite armies, still foot, because cavalry is a whole different skill to get hold of. And I like my Mordor, so I went with front row of Black Numenorians, who I've been trying throughout the year, and they're pretty damn useful because for their points they're a steal, to be honest. The fight 4, defense 6, terror, courage 4, which is a bit underrated. If you got a pure Mordor list, that goes up to 5 when you outnumber. And then to get a bit of killing power, put Morannons in the back line. And for heroes, I like having magic because at this kind of points level, you are going to run into some big choppy stuff, so you need things to be able to deal with that. So I went with the Shadow Lord because basically, if somebody's got a huge crossbow army, then my expensive troops are all going to die very quickly. So I got him, and for a partner, I wanted like a cheap orc hero, and the choice was either you go with Guritz for march and deployment rules, or you go for like a cheap striker to help beat bigger heroes. And I figured because of the pairing system that Jack settled upon for the scenarios, it meant there was about a 2/3 chance of getting a Maelstrom scenario. But even in that circumstance, all I needed to do was have the Shadow Lord come on and then have the other warband come on next to it, so I could afford to just spend might to do that anyway. So strike is more useful in more of the other games. So I went with it was either Zagdush or Gorbag. Zagdush has had a lot of popularity since it came out, but the problem is, despite the 3 attacks and the ability to go strength 5 if you want, he's only fight 4, and he's defense 4 or 5, and he's a 2 wound, 1 fate hero. So basically, you wind up spending might on striking in order to beat troops. So I went with Gorbag, who is fewer attacks base, but when he's fighting 2 troops at once, he goes up to fight 5, gets the 3 attacks. He's not strength 5, but you can live with that. And then
has a shield. If you want.
He has a shield, yeah, so defense 6, which is more useful than you think. And then I needed something just to kind of add a competitive edge to it. So I went and asked my friend who I go and meet up with in London. He does a lot of the GBHL tournaments. And they said, well, Spider Queen's in vogue now. Because I said I was either going to go Moria or Mordor. And he said, well, what do you want from Moria? And I said, well, primarily bat swarms. Because they are very, very useful and very hard to deal with. So he actually pointed out, well, you can get bat swarms from the Denizens of Mirkwood list. And the Spider Queen is quite a useful little glass cannon. So that was, how it went. So I had Spider Queen with 1 bat swarm going around jumping on heroes together, because bat swarm reduces you to fight 5 or lower, Spider Queen's fight 6, and then they take down things as a double team unit. And then I had a spare bat swarm, which was in case enemies had terrifying heroes, because when you've got 2 bats, even at courage 2, you've only got about a 36% chance of both of them failing a terror test. And it also means that you can potentially pair the second one up with Gorbag. So Gorbag can strike, Bat Swarm can halve. and the Shadow Lord can be transfixing things without ever getting himself in too much danger. I went with the yellow. I wanted it to be green quite badly, but this is what people voted for apparently. And basically, the least fun games, in my experience, are when I've taken a thematic list and I've just been steamrolled by a yellow list horrible army. So I thought, well, at least I'll take something that lets me be able to compete. Unfortunately, nobody passed the memo to me that despite the fact that the majority of people voted for yellow, nobody else took yellow. So I was the one competitive dickhead in the room. So
yeah, boo you, boo hiss.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it, because there was it went a bit backwards and forwards with that, because we did a bit of a going back to the format. Effectively was just a vote on to see. I think I was a bit conscious of just making a decision, because originally I was going to play in it, so I didn't want to just go, this is what it is, and if it benefited me or didn't benefit me or whatever. So I thought I'd put it to a vote, and literally it was, I think there was one vote in it in the end or something like that, and it was when people then dropped out, it was a case of not counting their vote, and it was just getting a bit messy. So in the end I went with what the latest vote was, and it stuck at yellow. But like you say, hardly anyone took yellow. So next year, which we'll go on to later, I'm not going to play in the finale, so I can just say it outright what it is. Effectively, it's just going to be green alliances only.
Yes.
For next year.
Yes.
But yeah, no, you're right. Bearing in mind, even though it was a slight majority, the majority voted for yellow. It was basically all green, which is like strange.
Yeah, so my win is all your fault, listeners.
Yeah, it's not your fault for picking it; it's their fault for voting for it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Right, Dan, do you want to talk about your games?
Yeah, sure. So the first scenario was what was the first scenario again? That was the
Heirlooms was the first one.
Heirlooms, yes, that was it. Yep. So the first scenario was Heirlooms, and I played Sam Huddy. And Sam's a really nice guy, and I felt a little bit sorry because I brought my horrible shade, which totally nullified his fluffy arable reclaimed list. As always with all hero lists, you need to make sort of the most of the might you're spending, and the sort of synergy within the list. And I think my shade was very good at nullifying a lot of that for me, as Sam was having to spend quite a good deal of my just winning combats. And in the end, it came down to, I think Thorin went down early, which was helpful for me, because that got rid of the Sworn Protector rule.
For the brothers.
Well, do they
all have it?
They all have it, yeah. So we had Biffa, Boffa, Thorin, Dwalin, the one with the axe in his head. Or is that?
That's Biffa, isn't it?
Yeah, he had. I think he had 8 of them. And then there was one humorous bit at the end where they managed to take my Witch King off his Felby, sorry, and he was fighting 1-on-1 against Dwalin, and actually no, sorry, 2-on-1. He had Buffer with him, and I managed to kill Dwalin with the Witch King on foot, which is ridiculous. And then Buffer ran away. So I felt a little bit sorry for Sam in that one, but it was a fun game. I just think he again that there's a fair bit of shade frustration in the first couple of games. So that was a 6-0 win, if memory serves, because no one picked up we ran out of time again, No one picked up the heirloom.
Having watched that game, you played all of it in one corner.
Yeah, no. Well, I was lucky because it's a Maelstrom deployment, and I have Angmar, so I've only got a finite amount of of might to spend. And thankfully, he turned up in one corner, and my Angmar turned up in the same corner. So I wasn't. It was quite lucky for me. Managed to keep most of my stuff together.
Yeah.
So yeah. Shall I just do my on to the second game, which was that ill? It's not ill met by moonlight, is it now?
Clash by moonlight.
Clash by moonlight. Yeah.
I prefer the old title, the Shakespeare quote, but never mind.
Maybe it's a bit. Well, I can't imagine it being too highbrow for Lord of the Rings nerds, to be honest with you. But no, I completely agree. And this one, I was playing Tom Hawker. And his camel is far. So this was a Farharad and Serpent Horde alliance, wasn't it? So that was
green.
Yeah. So it was his nasty camels.
How many did you lose?
He ruined people with those camels.
Yeah. I think I've not played the camels since the rules have changed, so it was a bit of an eye opener for me. So what's the rule? The impale rule,
yeah,
which is like a mini sort of trample was. I think in the main that was the only way he killed my orcs, but I think he must have killed about 8 or 9 of my orcs through impale. But I was able to stop his heroes getting into combat or charge, which meant he couldn't pass or he couldn't auto pass courage tests. So I was quite lucky that way. So I managed to get a hurl off from the Witch King early doors through a load of camels, which helped. And then it was a case of a lot of them failing courage tests to get in, or me winning priority, and I was able to bog them down and eventually break and then kill them. Because it's killing heroes, that scenario, I managed to kill his king after his king managed to charge the Witch King, and then I managed to paralyze the king in combat with my Barrow White. So killed the Farharad King. I can't even remember the name of the profile. Mahud King, and I managed to kill the Mahud Chieftain, but failed to kill he had the Betrayer on foot as the leader of the Heradrim, and I managed to fluff killing that with the Witch King on Fellbeast, which was incredible. So that was, I think, an 8-1 win, if memory serves. I can't remember off the top of my head. Jack will probably know.
I can check for you now.
It was around that. I think.
Yeah, 8-1.
8-1. Yeah.
Do you want to do CJ's first 2 games before?
Yeah, I was going to say, shall I do my 2? Then we can do the third together.
Sure.
Yeah, I bet Tom, when he saw your defense for orcs, he was licking his lips. He was just like, yes.
Just to go back to Tom's impales, I think in his first game against Jason, he killed like 14 models from impaling. It's disgusting.
Well,
yeah.
I was saying in the old rules that Seven Stones, not the year just gone, the year before. I think I took a Erebor, Army of Thror and Dale list, and we had they do a custom scenario where you have half your army on, and against both your opponent's 2 armies, and then you have another army come on and try and save them. I can't remember what it's called, but it's sort of like divided deployment. And they wiped out all of the army of Thror through impales, bar Thorin and Thror.
Jesus.
Then the Dale came on and they wiped the Dale out.
Wow,
that's grim.
So I camels scare the life out of me, and I was very happy that this one went reasonably well early doors.
Yeah.
So.
Fair enough. So
Right.
CJ's games.
Yeah.
My first opponent was Will Pointer, who is a lovely, lovely man, and he actually got Best Army for his. He had a very nicely painted white council. He had Glorfindel on Asphalloth with armor, Lady of Light, Gandalf on horse, and Celeborn. So obviously you get that, and you see its heirlooms, and you think, well, this is going to be a bit lopsided because I've got flying infantry, so I'm just going to sort of hop around the board, hoovering up relics. Although if he does manage to pick it up with one of his, it could be a tough fight to get it off him. I didn't have a banner, so basically it was whoever gets the relic wins. And to credit Will, he played incredibly intelligently. He used combinations of Gandalf commanding things forward and Glorfindel running them over and all that kind of stuff. Basically, we both dug up everything we could reach, and it wasn't there. So it was the last one, which I kept at the back of the board with one black Numenorian in the way. So we had a bit where he pulled my bat swarm forward and then ran into it with like Celeborn and Glorfindel. And so I thought, right, this is my chance. So I sort of run in, and I've got a bat swarm and the Shadow Lord on Celeborn. I've got a bat swarm and the Spider Queen on Glorfindel. I've got the charges off. So if I win these fights, these heroes are in big trouble. First combat, Spider Queen, 3 highest on the 5 dice. And the 3 was on the bats, not the Spider Queen, so I couldn't mite it to a 6. So back we go, and Glorfindel doesn't quite manage to kill the bats in one go. Then with Celeborn, again, I got 5 dice, and again it's another 3 high. And the Shadow Lord has only got 2 might, so couldn't get to the magic 6. So there you go. I had that sort of one moment where if the dice went more or less the way they should have there, I probably would have broken him in one go. But as it was, I've now got my sort of heavy hitting stuff in a really vulnerable position, and he's taken no damage.
10 dice, 3 highest.
Indeed.
Oh, that's grim.
Ouch.
Yeah, never mind. That will become a recurring theme. But yeah, Gandalf was the really annoying guy because he charged into the Spider Queen. So he's got 2 attacks versus my 2 attacks with a lower fight value. He wins the fight, does 2 wounds, and then the next turn he wins the heroic move off. Sorceress blasts the Spider Queen and kills it with the blast. Just Gandalf on his own, just hello Spider Queen, dead.
That's brilliant.
Because
Maybe
of the
not
fact,
for you, but
yeah, well, because of the fact he had 4 models, basically quartering him and breaking him happened at the same point. So it was kind of like, don't kill him too quickly. But he was running Gandalf away and just sort of shooting annoying spells while Celeborn sort of stood there and either shielded or I don't know, depends what managed to get involved, because Gandalf was able to sort of immobilize the bat swarms and things. So Celeborn and I'd run out of might because obviously he's got like 12 might, so I had to keep contesting heroic move offs, and he won all of them. There's like Galadriel with Banish or Instill Fear is horrible because Bat Swarms go down to Courage 1 within 6 of Galadriel, then she does Instill Fear, and they both go 12 inches off backwards. Yeah, he played great. To be honest, it was just sort of unlucky, the matchup and the scenario. I said to him at the start, look, I'm really sorry. This is going to be horrendously lopsided, but, I'm not going to sort of play nastily as far as possible. So
one of those things that equally it could have been a scenario that would massively benefit his army. It's always the luck of the draw with tournaments, isn't it?
Oh, can you imagine if we'd have got Contest or Lords of Battle in the first round? I'd have been, oh no.
Or even if he
as much as one could benefit
dug it
you.
up, you had to send everything to his heroes all together.
This is true, but with 5 flying models and a Spider Queen, I probably could catch, unless maybe it's Glorfindel. in which case you want to be careful when you catch him. Because anyway, so we get to game number 2, and it's Johnny and his Uruk-hai. Now, he's very good at Uruk-hai because that's all I've ever seen him play. So he knows how they work very well. He had Lurtz and he had Vrazku. He had an Orc captain on Warg, which I thought was an odd choice because I said, why not Sharku? And he said it's to do with the fact that Sharku has the Isengard keyword, and therefore when you're below 50%, basically he can't do anything to help the orcs in the list. I believe that's been FAQ'd now, so that if you're below 50%, you are allowed to use Isengard heroes to take a stand fast to try and keep orcs in line, but if they fail, they're gone. So he had an orc on a warg with a shield, and he had 4 wargs as well. But the important point was this was Clash by Moonlight, and he had 11 crossbows plus Vrazku. But then on top of that, a ballista, which you just never see. So to be honest, a lot of the game was me going, so it scatters 3, and then it hits onto this, and if it hits me, then it knocks me backwards. What if I do that? It's just, you know, you get models like that, like the Iron Hills Chariot or something, where it's just like, I have never played this. How does it work? Or Carnage Chariots.
Sure. It's just quite interesting that there was a ballista in both both competitions. List. So the Isengard player, I think it was Alex. He had a ballista in his Isengard list, and as you say, we've not seen ballistas all year, apart from maybe an Iron Hills one, and even then, I don't think we've seen one of them. No. And then Johnny also had a ballista, so it's quite interesting that points level, because I think it's one of the highest points levels we've had. Threw up some interesting things like ballistas and Felbeasts.
So I think it's at those points levels, it gives you the chance of having a target that is worth targeting with the ballista. I think anyway, because otherwise, if it's lower, generally it's saying that some people just bring their big heroes anyway. You're looking at a lot of smaller targets, whereas if you get lucky and get one, the payoff isn't as good as getting lucky and killing a Felbeast or killing a big hero kind of thing.
Hold on to that thought.
Is the Isengard ballista still? Is that an auto kill?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, also if the Felbeast, it just gets knocked over and goes flying anyway. So
as long as it hits, doesn't even have to wound the Felbeast.
Just knock it over. So I had, obviously it was Clash by Moonlight, so you got a 12-inch visibility, on top of which I have the Shadow Lord. So basically his huge investment in artillery was theoretically quite stunted. Although once you get to within 12, you get 13 crossbows with +1 to wound. That can be pretty gnarly. So he had 2 turns of shooting because 12-inch gap, so I got 6-inch movement. So obviously I've moved to within 13 and then spend 2 turns running at him. And I put the Pall of Darkness up. He got like 2 hits with his crossbows in total. He did manage 1 kill because 4+. But the important bit was I had the Felbeast sort of flapping merrily along in the middle of the army, going Pall of Darkness, na. And then the ballista said, have some of this, rolled a 6 to hit, and then a 5 to scatter. So obviously used the might from the veteran. Direct hits. I'd placed it so that if it did hit, there wasn't anything behind it. But even so, I go back 5-6 inches and get dismounted. So bye-bye Felbeast. And the stroke of luck I had was he rolled a 1 or a 2 to wound when he needed a 4 on the Shadow Lord. So, I mean, at least I wasn't looking at leader having to pass fate rolls or anything, but it was still just sort of like, oh, for God's sake, here we go. Lurtz was creeping up doing sniping shots as well, because you forget he's got a strength 3 bow that hits on 3s. Basically, that really evened it up, because if I'd still had the Felbeast, he's got a lot of defense 5 in that army. So he had lots of berserkers, he had lots of wargs, he had lots of pikes, he had lots of crossbows. In fact, as far as I recall, there was nothing defense 6 in the whole army apart from Lurtz. So if I'd been able to run around hurling things, I probably would have done a lot of damage. But as it was, basically I could immobilize one of his heroes per turn and rely on the Spider Queen to do the heavy lifting. But she is not very reliable, as it turns out, which became a recurring theme. She died in every game except the last one. And because you got 3 dice on the charge, it's not an excessive amount. And for about the, I don't know, don't want to exaggerate, 3rd or 4th time to that point, she ran into combat and rolled like a 2 or a 3 highest, and then you're like, well, I've got to spend all of the might, because if you lose a fight to Uruk-hai, they're strength 4, she's defense 4, no fate, 3 wounds. So if he gets lucky, gone. The one thing that was really useful there that he wasn't aware of as a trick was moving the Spider Queen up to the line, spawning a brood behind his line, and they then went and tagged all of the ballista crew. I mean, nice. They didn't last. I didn't have a broodling win a fight the entire day, and and apart from about once or twice, they died immediately. But the point was that they tagged these people off, and it wasn't able to shoot me, so I didn't have to waste will on.
What's the range of the broodlings?
So you can put them up to 3 inches away.
3 inches.
Yeah, which, given the fact that they've got like a 40 mil base, effectively means that you can plonk it about 4.5 inches away.
Yeah. And when does it have to be done? Is it during the move or end of the move?
Any point during the move, and you just spend a will point and off they go. He had nothing terrifying in his army. He had no spellcasters. I had no need of will points, so off you go, broodlings, and do shenanigans.
Nice.
So the Shadow Lord was reduced to basically just immobilizing his heroes as far as possible because he was on foot, and it was a very grind affair. The thing that kept me in it was the fight for the Black Numenorians and winning the occasional roll off. But when I did lose roll offs to Berserkers backed by 2 pikes, stuff died. I was just lucky that I managed to break him. Because a lot of his stuff was defense 5 crossbows. I had plenty of chances to win it. I had Vrasgu pinned against the damn ballista. Took about, across 2 turns, I had 20 strength 3 rolls to wound against him and did not get one. It took me 4 turns to kill his siege veteran with a bat swarm and some help. And it's just because you got to kill heroes to win that game. And I had one bit where he didn't notice I had a bat swarm free, so he charged the Spider Queen with lurts, thinking, I'm gonna finish her off because she's not got any might left. And then I'm like, well, here's a bat, and he went, crap. I had him completely surrounded, and once again just fluffed all the dice. So in the end, to wrap it up, I had killed slightly more heroes than him, so I got 5 points for that or so, and he got like 1 point for killing one of my heroes. And now I got the points for breaking him. That was it. But if I'd have lost just one more model, we'd have both been broken, and he'd have won. So
wow.
I was keeping an eye on my model count, and then at a certain point, I was just like, right, whatever's left is gonna shield, because that's all that matters now, apart from stuff that's trying to kill his heroes.
Yeah.
That was very, very close. Basically, if either of us had had a tiny bit more luck in the final round with dice rolling, it could have swung heavily one way or the other. And then we got Dan in round 3, and we had that interesting game. So what was it? Contest of Champions, and you have Big Nasty Witch King on your Fell Beast, and I've got Shadow Lord. So in theory, I'm thinking this is not a good matchup for me. But Dan decided the first thing he was going to do was run his Witch King directly into my Shadow Lord and have a direct confrontation. And he cleverly nudged the shade forward to make sure I was getting the -1 to win the fight. And then Witch King can strike up. So what I decided, right, I got 2 bat swarms. They're both at -1, so they're at courage 1. So this is not looking likely. Both fail. Then at the Spider Queen,
I transfixed the Spider Queen,
and I had to spend 2 will to resist that, and then I had to spend might on that resist roll to get through it. Through all 3 because you got a 6. So I rolled a 4 high on 3 dice, used 2 might to get there, and then I got like a 5 or so on the courage test. I like 1 too low to be able to charge the Witch King, because obviously if she'd have got in, then I'd have been able to strike, and it might have been a different story. But yeah, so he wins the fight with the Witch King, and then I said to him, so you're going to use the Morgul Blade? And then we both said, no, there's no point, because obviously Shadowlord's got 1 wound. And I say, well, if you kill the Fell Beast, then basically my Shadowlord has no killing potential left, and you can go off and do nasty things. So potentially you could use... He'd only use the 1 might to strike, and then on the Morgul Blade roll, he got a 3 high. So he had to use the remainder of all of his might on the table to take out my Fell Beast.
Yeah.
But you figured out at a later point what we'd both missed, didn't you?
Yeah, so following that, I can only put it down to what must have been a brain fart. But also, I think, we're into game 3 on the day. Guess brain's not probably firing on all cylinders, but I should have rendered.
Yeah.
And
I missed that as well.
Yeah, rendered the Shadow Lord and on 3 dice, and then even because I think I rolled a 3, 2, and a 1.
So you could have still mighted that and got 2 wounds, and that's probably game over.
Yeah, but I mean, it went the way it went, and I managed to take the Shadow Lord off of the Fell Beast, but then I was stuck in the middle for the rest of the game.
Yes. I had all my might, so basically whoever won priority didn't matter. Heroic move.
Yeah. So I was stuck. I mean, I think you managed to get a bat swarm in, even with the Harbinger. So
yeah, right near the end. That was what turned it. I had a lovely moment where the Spider Queen won a combat through the damn shade, had to use might to do it, and then it was like, I'm going to barge, and I need like a 2 or a 3 or something, and I can go into either the shade, knock that down, get that thing out of the game, or I can run you sideways into the Witch King and try and kill your Fell Beast, which, to be honest, was the preferred option. A bloody 1. Then I'm like, okay, what's the Queen doing now? She just stands there looking awkward. But yeah, so I used the Shadow Lord to do the final wound on the Fell Beast. So we drew level on the kill tally. And then the Morannons rolled stupidly well to wound the Witch King. So he was gone, 3 wounds. And then the Shadow Lord got quite lucky and managed to trap one of Dan's troops. This was like the penultimate turn. And so even on 2 dice rolling, needing a 5, you've only got a 55% chance of getting that kill. And if I hadn't, then we'd have probably been talking either a draw or he might have won because I was very, very close to breaking.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of... Because of your Black Numenorians, you had Terror and Harbinger up, so my orcs were not charging a single thing.
No, do you remember the first turn? You did like your whole front line from one end to the other, and nothing moved. Courage won.
Yeah. So it was a very, it was a very strange game in that. I think there was killing, but I had no might on the board and I couldn't pass courage tests, so I was very reactive the entire game. But I mean, it was close. There was killing, but again, I don't think it made much of a difference once the Witch King went. And then I think it must have been the penultimate turn. There was an orc was killed by the Shadow Lord, and I think that was it, wasn't it? So that was 5-0. I think.
Yeah, another very, very lucky win for me, to be honest, because Dan actually played very intelligently in the last 2 turns to try and prevent me from getting any further kills with the Shadow Lord, and damn near managed it. And then we played the last turn because there was just enough time, and I said, well, you could break me, that could make a difference to the VPs. And then I had an opportunity to gang up on something and try and get the triple kill. And he was like, haha, well, I'm going to do this in this order and pass this test. And suddenly poor old Shadow Lord got completely mugged. And then you did roll to wound him, and I passed my fate because that's the kind of arsehole I am.
Yeah. No, I completely forgot about that, actually, yeah.
So would you say that's one of the games in particular that having the extra time to run through did make a difference?
Well, we didn't get to a conclusion. So
as close as to conclusion as...
Yeah.
I mean, if the game had continued, then really Dan could have got some points for breaking, but at the same time, I could have potentially engineered a position to get triple killed. So maybe tough to say.
I think even if it was likely you would have got a triple kill, and I think I perhaps would have broken you before you would have broken me.
So that would be like 7-3.
Yeah, so I think it would again roughly the same VP difference. So it would have been roughly the same, but
cool.
It was good to have the extra time to see how it unfolded though in that one.
To give it the chance to unfold.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to do your fourth one first, then, Dan?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is the point where I think Jason left. So
yeah,
there was a point where me and you, CJ, could have played again. And it was Capture and Control, which I, funnily enough, didn't really fancy playing against your army with your flying infantry and terror-causing infantry.
I don't think the matchup was particularly fun for you, to be honest, because you're just failing courage tests everywhere.
It would have been a very similar game, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the alternative was playing Kieran, who I got a very good sort of friendship rivalry going with. So I was like, yeah, that's good. I'll take that.
Yeah, and so fair play to Kieran. He was happy to accommodate that for us as well.
Yeah, as was Will in my game. So I played Will Pointer with his all-hero, White Council.
Yeah.
And for those shade haters out there, this is the moment of catharsis you are all waiting for, because Galadriel banished the shade off the face of the board very quickly. To be honest, it was a very cat and mouse game because obviously he's only got 4 models. It was very much we spent the majority of the 2 hours I was chasing him around the board without really catching him, and he was just trying to split my army up. It was very well done, very intelligently done, but I think it was just a little bit. So Gandalf the Grey was on horse, and so he had Galadriel and Celeborn on foot, and then he had sorry, you went through the list earlier, didn't you? He was the Glorfindel on horse, and it got to the stage where I was trying to break Gandalf's staff with the Witch King because he was the only one who was anywhere near vulnerable to my spell casting, which is a tough state of affairs to get to, considering the heroes. But I think Galadriel had cast 45 spirit on everyone. They managed to keep everyone within 6 inches of each other, so they got the +1 to resist army bonus. So it was a spell off that I was losing to Gandalf. So I ended up trying to run my Witch King away. But he was still caught and killed by Glorfindel. So I lost Glorfindel and the Witch King about half an hour to go. And then it was mainly me just trying to keep hold of objectives and bog down enough of his hero. So I think I caused 2 wounds the entire game. And I think Will... This is where I think 2 hours was a long time for this game, because he broke me. I would have been broken if we had one more turn. So as is FAQ'd, Will still got the VPs for that, but I had 4 of the objectives against his 2. Yet again, instill fear from Galadriel. Very good, really good against Courage 1 Orcs. And it stopped me charging, terrifying elves across the board. And then with Gladriel nearby, it stopped me charging them all. I managed to paralyse Glorfindel on the floor. Didn't do a single wound, and Celeborn got him up the next turn.
Mate, that's rough.
So that was I think that pretty much summed up. It ended up being an 8-4 win to me, but it was really well played by Will, and he was unlucky because I think, as I say, I would have been broken next turn, and with Gladriel there, with her 6-inch mini Harbinger, a lot of that army would have been running away. So it was a very nip and tuck game, and I think I was very lucky in the end to come away with the 8-4 win.
So Will with like one of the fluffiest armies there on the day, nearly podiumed with the White Council at the league finale.
And he played them really well.
No, he did. It was really he was very skillful in breaking up my army. I think if the time had been shorter, it would have been better for me. But the longer that went on, the more it was in his favour. I think that happens perhaps a lot with it can happen with all hero armies. I guess so with the high might and things. So no, it was a good game. But yeah, so that left me with 3 wins and the loss to you, CJ.
Sorry.
It's all
right. Right. So then it was me and Kieran on the final table for a winner takes all duke it out. I think in the league standings it's me and him in the top 2 anyway. So we sort of looked at each other and said, "This is like the fairy tale ending." So yeah, he had a very nice concoction, green all the way, but it had Glorfindel with all the trimmings as the leader, very hard to deal with. Had Círdan, everything's terrifying, got the blinding light, not that mattered against me, and got the aura of command, so all of my terrors useless. And he can enchant blades for giggles when he wants Glorfindel to have just that bit more killing power. But the real puncher was Isildur with the ring. So you don't really know where to look. And even with all that, he still managed to have 25 models, which included two knights and a banner. So that is a very compact, hard-hitting army. And I was genuine. I knew what that was going to be before the tournament because he and I had been chatting about what potentially to bring for a while. And he put his up on the group, and that was the one list I looked at, and I thought, oh God, I'd really struggle there. But as it turns out, so we got capture and control. The table did not have that much terrain. There was about 6 bits of ruins and 1 tiny cluster of rock. So he didn't really have anywhere to sort of wedge his shield wall in, and he wanted to deploy up front, basically not concede board control. Because obviously we want to tag all the objectives. But what that allowed me to do was basically deploy like a thin line in front of him and then have 2 blocks on the side whose sole purpose was to just wrap around the back. And then I could put the Spider Queen and the Fell Beast at the end of the lines and just sort of go, whee, everybody on the floor. And that was, I would say that was more or less how it transpired, but we actually looked up the hurling rules, which have changed from the previous edition. So it used to be you can just throw something and anything it passes through gets knocked down. Now it's the case that if it goes through a combat, everything falls down in that. So there's almost there's no point doing that with a shield wall anymore, unless you've got priority and you do all the fights first, and then for the last thing you do, you throw down the line. But the Queen was able to go, right, here's a brood, go and tag the knights. Here's a brood, go and tag that objective. Here's a brood, go and tag that guy over there. And it just blocked off his ability to sort of countercharge, which was very useful. I also got off a first turn compel on Isildur and just had him march backwards through the will, through the resistance to magic that Numenor annoyingly has. I put up some blockades to stop Glorfindel running through. And then Kieran got quite unlucky in that he quite intelligently peeled off the control zones such that Glorfindel, if he killed both the things in front of him, he could go through and hit the Shadow Lord in the back. One of them was cavalry, so Círdan does a 2 dice enchanted blades on Glorfindel, and suddenly, I've misplayed this horrendously. So then we both do a heroic move, and I got lucky enough to win that, and I just like, right, I've killed the thing in front of me, and now I'm flapping off into the corner. Come chase me. It wasn't too long before I managed to get Bat Swarms onto Glorfindel, and Glorfindel had horrendous rolling that game, which was highlighted at one stage by getting 111, and then with the Lord of the West reroll, another 1. So for the stats nerds, it's about a 1 in 1296 chance. So then, yeah, it just
Jesus.
Even when Isildur got the ring on, he only managed to get 1 point where he usefully got him to charge the Shadow Lord or whoever, and he had to use all of his might to either win fights or attempt heroic combats, which didn't always come off. Isildur botched one, especially. So by the end of the game, I had sort of board control just through might again, like I had with Dan. So I managed to engineer a situation where I just ran. Glorfindel had no might left, so I put the Spider Queen and the Shadow Lord together on him, struck up with the Spider Queen, bowled him over, dead. And the game just kind of ended very, very quickly, because as soon as I'd managed to pull his army out of formation, I was just sort of surrounding and trapping and picking them off one by one. So in the end, it was a 12-0, but to be fair, Kieran's been like one of the strongest rivals throughout the league this year. And I said to him afterwards, yes, you have. I said to him afterwards, that really did not reflect the sort of quality of player that he is. I said what we should have had is like Fog of War, and it was 10-9 to somebody, because I think he's genuinely been, if there'd have been like a best newcomer for the East Anglia League, that would have been him.
Yeah,
because he's just appeared and won everything.
Very good. Very good. It's a great doubles partner. He is. What can I say?
He does all the hard work for you, Josh. That's why.
No, mate. The 12 crossbows and 21 throwing weapons did all the hard work. But anyway, okay. So that's the roundup of your games and our lists. A lot of love for Jack. We put a post. I put a post up yesterday just asking for a little bit of feedback and some of the things people liked, and not many negatives. So there wasn't really any dislikes, but obviously everyone. I'll kind of sum up everyone's thanks, and Jack can read them through himself. But big thank you to Jack for taking over something that had been done well the first year, and then the second year, Sean moved away, and I wasn't as round as much for various reasons. And Jack kind of took up the mantle and kept it a thing. And then this year, obviously, the league's been a really good success. I think Jack said we've had 48 unique players,
something like that. Yeah,
which, considering where we are and how many people we were getting attending events prior, we used to get a decent amount, but it was a lot of the same faces, and it was kind of like a very small little community of people, maybe 20 to 30, and you'd always see the same 15 to 20 people. So that's a big credit to A, the Middle Earth team for rejuvenating the game itself, and then B, to Jack for really making the league events.
Well, one thing I will say is that everyone has made it relatively easy to do. So big thanks to everyone for helping me, and it's like you guys as well. You've all helped me out, and in various Facebook groups and WhatsApp group running rules packs and queries it's definitely not been sometimes it seems like it's a one-man thing, but it's not. Literally every day I'll be checking something with you guys or people like James and Clayton, and so big thanks to everyone else and you guys for helping out, otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
Well, to give it some context, last year there were, I forget, it was between 8 and 10 people on the league leaderboard by the end of the year. And the only people that turned up to the league finale were me and Sam Huddy. So you contrast that with what we've had this year. It's been we've got a lot to be thankful to you for.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but also, like I say, big thanks to everyone for helping me out, and also people who attend the events make it very easy as well. And then that's probably a good segue to quickly note on next year because I think it's probably fair to say for all of us, we're not too bothered about becoming this massive, expansive league. We just want to keep it good. Obviously, expand a little bit, get a few more players as and where we can, but just to keep it running well.
If we look at the averages for the league events, we hit regularly 20 plus players.
Yeah, 20 is probably the average. 24 at the moment is probably the most we can manage, because one of the reasons behind the league was it's roughly £10 for an event. 25% is what we pay for the venue, 50% prizes, and roughly 25% we're putting back into the club to get scenery and things. Yeah. So the more people we get to the events, no one is taking any money out of it, myself or anyone who helps out or runs any of the events next year. It's the money we make, in inverted commas, is to buy new scenery for the club. And we do need a little bit more. We're quite lucky where people will come down and help us out. But it'd be nice not to have to rely on people as much as everyone is always willing to.
After next year, we probably get to a point where, we can probably nearly do an event with just the stuff that we have.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of the goal on that respect. And then by the time we've got everything and to run an event, it will probably be about time to start replacing some bits that are just wear and tear and things like that. So hopefully it'll just be an ongoing cycle. But but we've got different people running the events next year. We've got 5 league events penciled in, same as this year, although one kind of fell apart a little bit. So we'll say 4.5 we had. And we've got different people running them. So hopefully it'll be a bit more of a variety. Because like I've said to some people, naturally, where I kind of made the events and made the rules packs and run them, they probably did end up being fairly similar. I tried to mix it up as much as possible. But different people will run their events in different ways.
Well, I think also where you've played in those events, you can't make them too...
Exactly, yeah.
Because you're going to play in them, you don't want to make them too weird, because people are like, oh, he's made it weird and it favours him, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
not that anyone would say that.
No, I know what you mean. I was quite conscious of trying, even whether it was subconsciously or consciously, not to make an event that would suit an army that I would like to bring, even down to something as silly as points values. It'd be like, oh, I don't want to make it this points because that suits me perfectly. And then you kind of detriment to the event for the sake of not giving yourself an advantage, if that kind of makes sense.
But you're just spreadsheet man next year, aren't you?
Yes, and I'll run the finale with no intentions of playing in it, which is fine with me. Because originally, like I say, it was to keep the league going. It would have been a shame for it to just completely disappear, because we've all become quite good friends and we've got quite a good community and a big community now.
Yeah,
and it would have been a shame for it to just kind of disappear. So that was a reason to pick it up. And also, and I said this originally from a completely selfish point of view, by running all the events, I could put them on dates that I could make. So, like I said before, like in that flip side of it, it was perfect, because like most people, I can't do every weekend and things come up and everything else. So, but then we have other people running them. It's great when they run them. I'll do my best to attend. I'm sure everyone else will, and we're going to keep roughly the same format. As in, I've spoken to people about we're going to try and keep it a £10 event, because that seems to be going down well, and having 50% towards prizes, which whoever runs the event can have complete control over. I won't dictate like you must put 25% back in, but it would be nice to keep it as close to that as possible. And then I will keep a more up-to-date spreadsheet, because I started keeping quite a detailed finance spreadsheet at the beginning of the year, and then by doing that and then the results, and they don't take long on their own, but when you're trying to do all of them, you end up, in all honesty, just putting them aside, putting them off, and then the next events come, and then you've got 2 or 3 events to put on the spreadsheet, and it just doesn't happen.
If anyone wants to do the league results spreadsheet next season, let Jack know. He can just look after the finances.
I don't mind doing the results sheet. I can do the sheets.
All the finances, just to help him out.
But if anyone's interested, by all means, this is no elite club. I've said this, that if anyone wants to run any events, just get in touch with one of us. probably best to just go through one of the admins on the group, and we're more than happy to help people out and set events up. And
so 4 years now.
Yeah,
but it's still the same.
So while we're talking of the events, I'll quickly run through the list of who is running and when. We don't have exact dates yet. This is all on the group on one of the announcements somewhere. But while we've got it, I might as well go through it here. The first event is going to be run by Jason Mountain, and that's going to be a team event. I believe it's 8 teams of 3. So taking us up to the max 24 players that we've kind of got that we can handle at the moment.
Yeah.
That we did put a poll up for the date on that. Let's do a live reveal of when that was. So I threw that up. And
oh yeah, it's currently winning is I Can Make Either, and then second place is the 25th of January.
Okay, well it will be the 25th of January then. If people haven't voted, then tough. It's too late. It's
currently technically 13-2, or arguably you could say it's 13-9.
Either way, the majority after I Can Make Either date is so we'll do the 25th of January. And then I'll talk to Jason about that and we'll get an event up. So if anyone's interested, check out the group the next couple of days.
The format's 500 points, no duplicate heroes, and you put a player on a table, they put a player on the table, and vice versa. You go down the line and then you play the scenario.
That's it.
You all play the same scenario. It's quite a fun one. I think it's been used. I think it's the same as the ETC. I could be wrong. I think Jason said he took it from Guild Ball. They do something like that in Guild Ball.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So then this is one of the
format for the league.
Different people running events. We're going to get different formats and ideas, which will bring a nice bit of variety to the league as we go through. So the second event is going to be in March, and that's going to be run by Sam Huddy.
He's got here potentially the 21st.
Potentially the 21st of March. So some exclusives on the podcast today of dates.
It's just in the comments from my thread.
Yep. Next one will be in May, and that's going to be run by Tom Hawker and Jake Tyso. I think that one may be run in Kettering. So that's another thing we've spoke about this year is because we do have people come down. All the events have been at Epping this year because it's nice and easy for us to get availability for it and confirm. And also where I've been running them, it's quite close to me. So, of course, I'm going to choose that place. So I know that some other people who live further away have mentioned about doing events at different places, and we're completely open to that. So if anyone wants to do it, get in touch with us and we'll all support it where we can. Obviously, not everyone can make everywhere in every event, but I'm sure people will if they can. And then event 4. So this is something we have to sort out as well. Last year, I did like a scenario reset, tried to play all the scenarios once. And then when you get to maybe 1 left or you've played all 12, then we'll reset them again.
I still don't think we played whole ground.
No, did we not?
All year.
Oh, wow.
No, because we got to one event where there were 4 left, and then we had 3 700-point games, so we only did so no whole ground.
So, so maybe do something similar this year where we try not to duplicate the same ones all the time. But I'll chat with the people who are going to do the events from there. So if we have the scenario reset, the first one after that will be CJ's event in July. Have you got any exclusive announcements roughly for your one yet?
It will be de-escalation. It will be a narrative theme of you're going to try and invade a city and ransack the leader. And so obviously as you get through the first wall of defense, you've lost troops. You get through the courtyard, you lose more troops. So it does have some predetermined scenarios in mind. Off the top of my head, those involve reconnoiter, storm the camp, and the last one potentially being to the death. There's one other that I can't quite remember at this point, but hopefully it should be a good laugh.
Yeah, and then with that preset scenarios could work quite well with the scenario reset because you'll have the pick of the bunch if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 5th event in September, Sean has gone forward to say he'll do that. And he's looking at running that in Athena Games in Norwich. Again, Sean travels down from further away, so he would like to do his there. So, yeah, we may have 2 events outside of Epping and however many more people want to do. And then the finale this year, I'm going to run that again And as I said, I'm not even going to attempt to play in it because I'm quite happy just to run it. It'll be 600 points, 1 army, 4 games, and it's going to be green alliances.
Stop playing filthy greens now.
One army or green alliance only. Because like you say, people voted for convenient, but most people took green.
I have a lot of new releases by then, though.
Exactly. Well, yeah, we'll go with it. And also, if I'm not playing, it's not to benefit me or disadvantage me or whatever. It's just I've decided we'll go green, and that's it.
That's fair.
And yeah, so that's the rough what we're going to do for this year. I'm going to try and put out a survey, but it might not be till the weekend or after the weekend. So depending on when this podcast comes out, it may already be out.
Or
and it's
January.
Maybe January, yeah. No, I will get it done. And just to get people's views on the league this year, and I think the main thing people have asked me about is changing the number of games for qualification, maybe increasing it to give people a better chance of moving up the leaderboard after they've hit their 5 games. So maybe keep it 5 to qualify, but increase it as best 7, best 10, that kind of thing. So I'm going to pop that in a survey and put a few options in there just to gauge people's reaction, and then try and get that all sorted before, it will be sorted before Jason's event in January.
I think to summarise, it's just been a good year, right?
It has. It definitely has. Everyone seems to have enjoyed it. No real problems. It's gone quite well. Next year, it's going to be much of the good stuff again, with a few improvements, hopefully, and different ideas and people on board, so a bit more variety. And we've still got around about, after I have to find out how much the engraving is for the 2 trophies, but we still have about £100 to play with to get some more scenery, and that is just purely from money raised from events and the small raffle we did at the end of the last event.
Yeah, me, James, and Jack have already got some plans. So
yes, next we can exclusively reveal we're hopefully working to make use of our desert map with a Harad style board. But there's lots to be determined with things like that, but we're going to get that sorted.
So before we get onto the comments and then wrap up, I'm going to do the YouTube bit now, because I always forget to do it, and then I don't think anyone listens to it right at the end. So comment, like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments on Facebook when we put the posts out. But if you're not on our Facebook page, first of all, it is linked on the channel. You can find it. But also, just leave a comment on the video. It helps the algorithm and it gets us more interactions or whatever. I'm not really that clued up as to why that helps, but because we get a lot of views. I don't know if it's the same people who view the video in multiple sittings, or if it's that many individual views of the video. But just leave a comment in the video or on the Facebook page for the next podcast, and whoever it is will check both anyway, like we normally do. So comment, like, share, subscribe, and we're nearly at 100, 91 now. So we went up from the other day, Dan, which is good.
Brilliant.
I think we went up by 3 or 4, which is really cool. We're nearly there, so I really should think about a prize for 100 subscribers. Still not thought of one, but I promise when we hit that milestone, I will think of a suitable prize and get it out to the person, whoever. I'll do a random number generator. Put all the people because I can see the list of subscribers. I'll put all those people in a random generator, and then whatever number it lands on, I'll contact that person on YouTube and send them their prize. So
cool.
So the comments from my post that I put on Facebook, Clayton was just thanking Jack, and he put, as we are nearing the end of the year, what are your hobby ambitions for 2020? Any new projects and any events you plan to attend next year? E.g. Ardicon and Seven Stones are some of the ones that he's probably looking forward to.
Do you want to go first, Josh?
I think me and Dan covered our hobby projects for next year in the last pod, but for me, it's I've got a few things that I want to finish in the shed. I've got my elves, my Rivendell elves, my Angmar orcs. I've got some Goblin Town that I want to finish, and then I've got some Corsairs that I need to finish. So trying to finish off things before buying new shiny things, but the temptation is always there to buy.
Easier said than done, isn't it?
I am trying to get that stuff done. which is why I've asked for vouchers for Christmas, so I don't have to particularly get more. I can just get things when I want to get them for things as a reward for finishing off other armies. But in terms of events, next year is going to be difficult for me for personal reasons. So probably it'll just be another local year. I may try and do Stockport again because it's one of my favourites. Depends what we have this way in the country, but it'll probably just be local league events, and I plan on running another escalation event at some point, just because this year I think the timing of it was a bit unlucky because it was in between GBHL events and one of our league events. So it'd be nice to maybe find a month that's not, people aren't maybe so busy, and then run it then, and hopefully get a little bit more uptake, because it was good fun to run, and I got a lot of good feedback. So for me, it's just local events, probably maybe Stockport. I'd love to go to Stirling as well. So depending on when that is, it's normally around the same sort of time in the year. I may go to Stirling as well. So that's me.
Cool. So for mine, would probably be ambitious next year is mainly finish off what I've got. I'm still counting that Mauler army as a new project, but that can be kind of moved up and down for most points levels. So I want to get that done. Also going to finish off my Isengard, which will tie in nicely with Rohan at War, or War in Rohan, rather. Finish off my Rivendell, get my Radagast Alliance done. These are all kind of on their way, so it's not like starting them completely fresh. So, but mainly getting everything done, again, similar to Josh, before buying loads of new stuff, which may or may not happen, but we'll see. Also, kind of want to do a Rohan now, which will tie in with the supplement, which is probably going to make me want to do it even more. So I'll probably buy a load. And I've recently actually sold a load of Rohan, and now I want them all again. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. In terms of events, get to as many of the East Anglia ones as possible. Like I said last year, I could pick and choose the dates. That worked out well for me personally. I'll make to as many as I can. And I would hoping to go 7 stones. And it will probably be one of either Ardacon or one of the Warhammer World events. Because weekend events that are far away are a bit hard for me to do. So it will be one of Ardacon, GT, and Throne of Skulls, one of them 3 maybe, because we've spoke about this before going, some of us. So maybe one of those.
So the events I'm going to go to next year, I'm going to try and get to as many local ones as possible. But I really want to get to 7 stones this year because I missed, next year, because I missed this year's, and Ardacon, I think. So I'll try and get to Ardacon once every 2 years, sort of on average. And I missed this year, so next year we're due, and I think there's a couple of us all already looking at exploring Airbnbs and what have you. So yeah, no, it'd be quite good. So yeah, I mean, guess we'll see what happens planning wise. Hobby wise, as Josh said, we sort of touched on it in the last one. I've got quite a bit to do on quite a few lists that I've sort of half started, but I'm trying to finish off the heroes from the Gondor at War release at the moment. So on my painting table, I've got Húrin and Ingold and Arliss,
Nice.
as well as the Mordor heroes from. So I've got Goroth and Zagdush, and it'd just be good to get the play some of the scenarios from it.
Yeah,
I've got a load of Osgiliath terrain as well to put up and deal with, so I'm probably going to have to ask James, friend of the channel, to give me some pointers on how to do terrain. So yeah, so that's what I think's next. But then of course, with Rohan at War coming out, I imagine that'll hit a hard stop, and I'll do something else. Most likely Rohan.
Buy all the new shiny stuff.
Yeah, new shiny stuff, obviously. But yeah, so CJ?
Well, usually painting's sort of the last thing I want to do. I sort of paint it to an acceptable standard such that I can play with it. So for once, I've got something on a very slow burn that will probably take most of next year. got a display board that's been custom made, and trying to get the right bronze armor and dark blue cloth mixtures. So I'm doing a lot of test painting, and hopefully that'll look really nice when it's all put together. It's a bit of a crossover with another fantasy genre, but yeah, I'm kind of inspired by Callum Royal, who comes and does strange kind of mashups. He did his Pirates of the Caribbean, Corsairs of Umbar most recently, so I want to do something like that. In terms of events, I'm not sure, because I've had a number of incredibly negative experiences in tournaments this year, which were putting me to the point of wanting to stop playing, to the extent that I possibly wasn't even going to come to the league finale last weekend. So I don't know. EAHC is usually pretty safe because there's nice people and there's interesting armies, and it's almost always green, and by the sounds of it will continue to be so. But as Josh has touched on in his recent podcast, the last 3 months have been fairly abysmal for me health-wise, and so I'm having to spend a lot of money on fixing my broken knees and things. So I'm going to have to save up and pick and choose events next year. So I might give GBHL ones a miss for a while, just because that kind of win at all costs mentality isn't fun to play against for me anymore. And so the Strider Cup is one I always love to go to, because that's just complete lunacy.
I'm going to that again next year. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, that's great fun. I'll do as many EHC ones as I can afford to get to, and then other to that, it's going to be very, very selective. Right, what's the next question?
Sam has... he'd like to see a Winder Raider points, values, and list restrictions, e.g. must contain a hero of legend/hero over 100 points. So again, that's something we can discuss. And he's got his own event, so he's, as long as it's green, as long as it adheres to Jack's league rules, I don't see why that would be an issue. Shameless plug, we've already discussed it, but his league event in March, potentially on the 21st. He's then asked, what was your personal favourite game of the league, and can you quickly outline how it went down? So 4 of us, we all got... It's very hard to say, isn't it?
I could probably... One that springs to mind was the game me and CJ played of... Was it Recon? And where I think you won 1-0 by a leader VP. And it was... It was quite an intense game and competitive game without being too gamey, but both taking it relatively seriously in a light-hearted way, if that's making any sense. But for a game that was 1-0, and it wasn't an all-action, all-swinging game, there was a few bits going on. It was a really interesting tactical game. That's one that springs to mind. There's
I got a wound on Glorfindel with an Orc tracker needing a 5+, then a 6x4 after the horse or the rider roll, and then he bombed through all 3 of his fate points. And I was like, okay, that is a hell of a way to steal a win, but yeah.
But no, it was a very tactical game. It was very backwards and forwards. It wasn't even backwards and forwards. It was both just waiting to see what the other done. It was a good game.
I thought of one. It sprung to my head. It's because Dan's in the call, and because I like giving him shit on the podcast. So when me and Dan played, I think it was 3 events ago, maybe. We've been sending each other our lists back and forth and discussing how my list was a good counter for his list and how his list is obviously a hard counter for my list. And it ended up being a 0-0 draw with Dan. Essentially, all he had to do was heroic combat the right way and he would have won. And he went the wrong way and basically lost himself the win. So it's probably the most fun game, purely because we sort of built up to it, and then we drew each other from Swiss, and then me snatching a draw from defeat somehow because Dan went the wrong way with his heroic combat.
It sounded like a theme, this, isn't it? Me making the wrong choices at the critical.
I don't want to keep bringing it up, mate, but I that event didn't go very well for me, but it's the last game I think I played, so it was quite fun.
One other part of that question as well I didn't answer was the hero that performed best this year. Was probably, it was early on, but it was probably Gilgalad at lower points, which I can't remember if I did particularly well at the events, but he himself was just absolutely wrecking face.
I think the only league event I've done well at this year, in terms of winning all my games, was the event where I took the Blackgate Opens list. So you automatically assume I'm going to say the Mouth of Sauron, and that's because I am. The Troll Chieftain is good, but I often find that because you're relying on him too much, he whiffs a lot. Whereas the Mouth, I'm like, I'll just chuck him in. I've charged, I've got 3 dice, and he's just a very reliable troop killer if they're not high fight 5. Yeah. So for me in that terms of, because I've tried a lot of other. Shagrat was very good for me actually as well in the event where I used Shagrat. So one of those two.
Cool.
Dan, your hero of the year?
Oh God.
My shout would be Imrahil for you, but
it's a shade, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely the shade. You know what? Yeah, Imrahil. I was using him early doors part of the year, and he's just a beast. And what he gave that
very good for his points.
Yeah, and obviously making the Knights Nearby fight 5 as well.
The banner.
Fight 5 with the banner, and he was just very good. I really enjoyed using him. I think it's the first. It was back in when the new rules come into vogue, so you can use the big heroes again.
Yeah,
he wrecked most things for me, and I just most of my Gondor. A lot of the time with Gondor, you can't wound, and then you'd have Imrahil just killing half the army by himself.
Strengthful with a lance, yeah.
Yeah, with some knights, and it was he's my my most valuable hero, I think, of the year.
What about you, CJ?
I haven't tended to sort of use one list, or I was
going to say
I've experimented a lot this year.
Yours could be quite interesting because you've used a lot of different armies.
Yeah, I mean, Suladan with your 6-inch banner for 100 points is Kardush since he got the re-release, and I've been playing with him. Gorgeous. Flame Burster. My favourite trick was Witch King compels the banner away from supports. Kardush sets him on fire. No more banner. Gundabad Shamans I've tried out, and that's great because you can just go like, oh, that's a nice banner. Snap. Yeah. No resist for you. I would actually point to a unit and not a hero, which would be the Bat Swarms, because there is nothing you can do against them. They're 35 points, they're 12-inch flying infantry, and they halve your fight value rounding down, and that happens after heroic strikes. So if you stick that with something that either is fight 6 or higher or can strike up to fight 6 or higher, your opponent is basically helpless. And to be honest, I think that's a bit unbalanced. I would probably say, to make the rule a bit fairer, you could have it so that their original fight value is halved rounding down, and then they can strike up from there. Because then at least you give them a chance. Yeah. Whereas I was playing James Wilson at Lords of Battle with a Moria list earlier in the year, and he had the Grey Company. So I thought, I'm in for trouble here. But I mean, he's got Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and it doesn't matter. Because as soon as you stick in Groblog with a Bat Swarm and Durberts with a Bat Swarm, or Bat Swarm with an enraged spider that's now fight 6, nothing they can do. You just surround it, and you combine them with Prowlers, which get +2 to wound when you're trapped, and that's it, they're gone. And they can piercing strike, so Gimli's getting wounded on 4s. Or Dan knows, Eagles getting hacked to pieces on 4s is just disgusting.
Let's just shit on Dan for the last 5 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's the only reason you invite me on, I swear.
It's for your charm and good looks, mate. You've got a face for radio. What can I say?
And you wonder why I took a shade.
Cameron Bell's left a comment. He enjoyed the couple of tournaments he attended. Battle of 5 Armaments was really good, even without the dropouts. The other event, which was the one won by me, and he wants to attend more next year. And he also just wants to mention Sam Huddy's dice for 5 minutes and how bad they are.
They're just legendary.
I've never known anyone's dice to be so what's the word?
Crap.
It's atrocious.
Well, no, they are. They are all the correct words, but it's how consistently bad they are.
Yep. And it's not even just rolling low, because as he will happily point out, if he needs the game to end on a 1 or a 2, he'll roll 6s for days. It's just... Yeah, he's just the unluckiest man I've ever known. I've doubles partnered with him twice, and it's just like, what? You're like a plague, Huddy.
I mean, as bad. Sam's actually a very good player. His dice lose him games. It's awful. It really is.
Do you know? I've just quickly got up the league results. I didn't actually play Sam this year.
I think I played him once.
I didn't play Dan either.
No, that's true. We had a number of practice games though, so that's enough.
Yeah.
I think I played Jack once.
Twice.
Did I win both?
I won. The one was to seize the prize.
Oh, we don't count. We don't.
And then the other one was the other one was seize the prize as well that you won. Do you remember when the river was dividing across the board? And
yeah, that was tactical genius. That one was tactical genius on my part. Your one had flying things and I couldn't touch them. So anyway, yeah. So I think Sam, we need to just buy you some new dice. I don't even think that'd help. I've given him dice before.
He infects. Sorry, I was going to say he infects other players. Like he'll go near James Wilson, who's rolling a crucial thing to win the game, and just there's the one. He is like the tainted of dice.
The tainted of dice for SBG. Oh, brilliant!
We're going to get some new league dice, so maybe he might get some better luck.
Yeah, I've asked Tom for a specific colour just for me as well, because I'm special. So I think we can call it there. As I said, the other comments are just related to loving Jack, and it's just, but he's already been modest and said it's not a one-man show, so fair play. So I think we'll wrap it up. Big thank you to Jack for being a guest on his own podcast.
Yep.
Big thank you again to CJ and Dan for helping us out and giving us some insight into games on the league finale, because myself and Jack didn't play. If you're looking forward to next year, leave another like. You can only leave one, but leave two. Leave a like in the comment section. That'll count double. That's it. Thank you, everyone. So,
did we have CJ's question this week? Do you have one this week?
Oh,
we did the which profiles are capable of restoring fate points, didn't we? So there you go. We've got Galadriel, Hamira, Bill the Pony, Ori the Dwarf, Tom and Goldberry. Okay, question for this time will be, which men profiles can wound defense 5 on 3s without using heroic strength or channeled enchanted blades?
I think I know one.
I know one. Fairly certain.
I might know on 3s, yeah?
Uh-huh.
I think I know 2, actually.
So which men profiles can wound defense 5 on 3s?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've got 2.
I think I've got 1.
Yeah, we won't give out the answers like I normally do. So let's see today's question of the week. Put your answer in the comment section, and we'll try and get another episode up, assuming this goes up the week that you're listening to it, next week. And we'll catch you all later.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.